that I'll note on the short-term vacation rentals, I would, and perhaps staff has already done this, but I would suggest that staff move forward without the council and meet with the various agencies, large rental companies, to start talking about the issues that have been raised to so many of us, either as a group or individually. I don't think we really need to wait for that to come to us on a study session. I know several of the companies that I've spoke to are willing to meet to talk about the issues, and maybe we could have a meeting beforehand before we get to what actually would be a study session. My recommendation.
Okay, council. Mr. Pougnet.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. First, I want to give a quick update from the last time that we did docket review. We talked about the vacation rental situation, and I suggested that before that something was scheduled, that we should have a meeting with the owners of some of the major rental companies. What I would like to report is that I have had that meeting actually yesterday with 4 of the major owners of the rental companies, and they have sent me some wonderful recommendations going back to some things that you all discussed 5 and 6 years ago, and have done a very pinpointed and bulleted memo to the city manager. And I think that we can address some of the issues without putting that on an immediate study session. One of the other things that we discussed, which I think Mr. Graves will be pleased to hear, as will Mr. Mills, is they're very convinced that we're losing at least $1 to $2 million in TOT for rent by owners or vacation rent by owners, and they have come up with a process to identify those and work with the finance department. So I would say we don't have to have that as such a priority now, because I think when the city manager gets a hold of this memo, we might be able to address that without bringing it to a study session right now. As far as
council member comments and reports, Mayor Pro Tem Pougnet.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The first item, I want to thank staff for the memo on the short-term rental program. I think, this is a position that we approved in the budget last year that's now up and running in the finance department. It's going after rentals that are not listed, not paying TOT, and your memo dated 2/107, I think, is a great start to getting some enforcement on that program. The second, and then the second one, before making some comments, I'd like the city manager to make some comments regarding the vacation rentals, because this city council did give direction a year ago on vacation rentals. We directed actually myself to go to a couple meetings, which Mr. Reddy attended, with some of the vacation rentals to get to where we're at now. I'm not saying it's perfect, but David, if you could give a brief report, at least where we're at from that standpoint.
Sure. The focus of the focus needed to be on the enforcement. So working with the police chief and the entire police staff is they've been working on the enforcement side, and the enforcement manifests itself in 2 areas: generally noise abatement and potentially illegal parking. So with those 2 mechanisms, they've been trying to move forward to resolve those issues. That's one side of the equation. The other side of the equation is illegal rentals. We've hired staff in the finance department to do significant investigatory work. We've been working with the rental agencies themselves. They've been giving us information and leads. So we've been working towards making sure everyone is in compliance, which means they're following the rules, or at least they know the rules to follow. Those are the 2 pieces. One final element is the chief is going to actually begin doing the administrative citations for noise complaints, where before we would issue them in essence, a citation which would end up in a court date. But what we found out with code enforcement, the administrative citation gets some immediate action when you get a dollar fine, that it changes behavior relatively quickly. So the chief is starting to implement the administrative citation for noise complaints as well.
And then how will you be able to measure that success?
Well, again, we're working on the parameters of the current ordinance. If council certainly could, if they wanted to change the ordinance and give us additional tools. Right now, the tools we have are noise abatement and parking restrictions. But beyond that, there could be some changes with regard to business licenses and how we license them. And the other key thing is with within the GIS system that we have, we're trying to change the reporting mechanism so we have a better statistical information of the number of times we go to any specific household on a complaint. So that's something that the chief's working through, and he might be able to address that a little later if he can.
So you're continuing to work with the owners of the companies and ONIP to come up with what we think is a good, at least an initial good way to move forward and potentially measure it to see whether we need to make changes in the future.
Well, one thing we were looking for, if council is, if it's your direction is to review the ordinance in its entirety and see if there are some ordinance changes the council would want to entertain. I suppose that is one question mark that staff would be looking to council, because right now we have certain mechanisms in there to enforce. We're not sure if council would want to place more restrictions on this or not.
Okay, well, I'm kind of looking from direction from staff on that issue.
Okay, then what I would
this is a different discussion, but I mean,
When you say staff, you mean legal?
well, legal's involved with the staff. I mean, you've got to listen to the people, okay, to ONIP, you've got to listen to the owners, and you need to make a recommendation to us. So I can't sit here and say I want to change the ordinance.
Yeah. Well, what I would suggest, Councilman, based on that, we have had some discussions. What we could do is actually create a model ordinance, if you will, that addresses the issues that the neighborhood organization has, and have legal review it and see if it makes sense.
Okay. Well, I think it's probably an appropriate time to review the ordinance.
Okay.
And I don't know if my colleagues agree with me or not, but next topic.
Actually, I would note that will be a formal process in the new proposal we're bringing forward. And actually, I would note that the large rental companies as well have been giving us data on, or will be giving us extra data on their properties. They've agreed to do that will help us keep our database. Now, it'll be confidential for the police department, but at least we'll have that information and they can act accordingly.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I don't want this to become its own agenda item
No.
tonight, because staff, there is a report. I've been very involved with this. A lot of different houses, and staff is working very closely right now with the finance department, with the police department, and so until you hear their plan, I think we'll be pretty happy. So.
Okay. City Manager?
Mayor, I'm prepared to move forward. Thank you.